All right, so stage 2, we have advertise. Okay, so advertise, headcount, again, we're at 1. Okay, so just you. It is still, you're all by yourself alone in this world, starting this business by yourself, right? Your role is to be a doer. So the mistake a lot of people make at this phase, and just in general starting a business, is they see people like Alex, people like myself, and they say, look at what they're doing, I should be doing that. No, you should be doing, you should be in the weeds, and you should be getting your hands dirty. Okay, your leadership structure right now is you don't have one. You are the leader and you are leading freelancers. Okay, so at this point, you don't have any full-time employees, or at least most businesses in this realm do not. And the number of companies here is 30 million.
And the reason for that is because there's no actual statistical differentiation in the Census Bureau. I would imagine that there are fewer companies that use contractors and vendors than ones that are solopreneurs. It's just that I couldn't find a really good data source for it. So I would just imagine it's less than 30, but more than whatever the next level is.
So the first function we have is product.
All right, so these are the goods, services, and results that you deliver. And so the problem at this level is that paying customers have higher expectations. The product is unreliable and or not good enough. Now, to graduate, you have to fix it to be good enough for now in an unscalable way. All right, and so this is what this looks like. So valuable over scalable. So you need to work more and make sure they actually get the result they want. And then try and build a better version of it that delivers that same result that is scalable. So first, optimize for experience and result. Then later worry about, okay, well, I had to drive and pick that person up. And then I had to go to the airport. And then I had to do X, Y, and Z. And I'll tell you an interesting factoid about this. So there's a business that we're launching that's a treatment center for addiction. And part of that model is that we're willing to pay for somebody's flight and we pick them up from the airport in order to take them to the treatment center. And so some people might think, oh, that's crazy, that's unscalable. Well, it's just there's a cost associated with every service or benefit that you have. And if they're willing to pay for it and you're willing to deliver it, that's just called free exchange, which is a wonderful thing about capitalism. All right, and so one of the big errors that new entrepreneurs make is they spend so much time trying to make their offer scalable, they forget to make it valuable. And so that's really the big theme here, is because the main big thing for this stage is advertise. We more or less did fix a lot of the things that we had earlier, but the clear focus of product is that you just want to make sure that it's actually good and don't worry at all about scalability. Then we move on to the marketing.
All right, so marketing is how you tell people about your stuff. The constraint at this level is that your lead flow is inconsistent. It looks like this, and it's a lot of times because you're stopping and you're starting. If you're the one that's creating the leads, then often what happens is you are inconsistent, so lead flow is inconsistent, right? And so to graduate from this level, we want to live by the rule of 100 and prioritize advertising daily. Okay, so what this looks like is getting consistent inputs. The rule of 100 is that make 100 dials, make 100 outreaches, send 100 texts, send 100 emails, not every other day reaching out to your leads, not sometimes reaching out to your leads, not only when you need it reaching out to your leads, but every single day reaching out to your leads. And it's the consistency that's the most important. Most people, where they go wrong here is that they stop advertising when they have enough customers. Very soon when you don't, you're going to wish that you had been doing it all along. And if anything, right, even if you have excess demand and excess leads, that's going to create good problems later. You can figure out what to do with those later. The point is you want to get consistent with generating those leads so that when you do open up capacity, when you can take on more people, right, you actually have people interested in buying your product. We call this the core 4, right, which is this is the 4 ways that you can reach out to people. There's warm outreach, was what I just talked about and what I referred to, and this is the most common one. But there are 3 other ways that you can practice the rule of 100, right? There's cold outreach. Means, okay, these people don't know who I am and I'm going to reach out to them. This could be people on LinkedIn when you use a filter to search for people. This could be people that follow your friends on Instagram. This could be friends of friends on Facebook. This could be people that don't know you at all and you just buy a list from somebody.
So those are the one-on-one ways, which is private. All those are private communication, text, email, knock on doors, whatever. One-to-many is you post content to people who know you. And so the reason it's rule 100 is that you spend about 100 minutes a day on content. And so that includes 2 things. One is you make the post, you have to make the post. And then on top of that, you want to use your outreach attempts on people who liked it, on people who commented, and you can then take the remainder of that time to make 50 or so comments or even 100 comments on other people's posts that advertise to your same audience. And the objective is to have the best comment on that specific person's thread. So the nice thing is that when you comment inside of a group or you comment on a post, you're actually not competing against the internet anymore. You're just competing against the other people who made a comment. So it's much easier to win if you just take an extra minute. And that's where you get other people who engage with you, and then they like your comment, and then you can message them. And so all of this is to create some sort of engagement so that you can start conversations, start dialogues. And then finally, the most leveraged way of doing this in terms of advertising that one person can do is that you run paid ads. So the rule 100 would be like, if you're starting out, you spend $10, spend $50, spend $100 per day. And the 100 part is about the amount of time you allocate towards those ads. So the money takes no time to spend. It's how long am I going to spend looking at new hooks, researching and making new creative, posting that, writing that content, posting it, and then blasting it out.
So again, if you are at this point right now where you need to do this for marketing, go ahead and literally screenshot this while you're going through this course so that you understand how that applies to each one of these from the core 4. So to graduate marketing, right? Lead flow is inconsistent because you're stopping and starting. You need to now live by the rule of 100 and do this every day. And so next we have sales.
All right, so at this level, this is how people exchange money for your stuff, right? So sales conversions are inconsistent. And so to graduate, you need to nail a script and a process for setting and closing. So this is obviously under the assumption that you sell customers, one-on-one, which is 78% of businesses. But if you have a checkout page, it'd be a little bit different because then it's really just optimizing the checkout page for conversions. But for the sake of this, since the vast majority of businesses do just sell this way, I use the closer framework, which is an acronym for clarify why they took action and showed up, label them with a problem or plan that you want to solve, overview their past pains and experiences. You sell them the vacation, not the plane flight. Explain away their concerns once you've made the offer, and then you reinforce the decision. And so fundamentally, if I had to give you a very easy mental picture here, all we're doing is saying, where are you now? Where do you want to be? What do you think's stopping you? I would like to S, sell you how I can help you overcome this issue. And then within S, I like to have a 3-pillar pitch, which means there's 3 key points that I like to boil or chunk everything up to, which is what are the 3 things that someone needs to be successful? And then I make a 1-line statement, and then I give an analogy or a metaphor. And so the classic one that we had in fitness was fitness, nutrition, accountability. Those are the 3 legs of the stool. If you have 2 of them, the stool falls over. If you just have fitness and nutrition and you don't have accountability, you're not going to do it. Doesn't matter how good the plan is. If you just have fitness and accountability, but you're eating like crap, you're not going to lose any weight. If you just do nutrition and accountability, then you're going to lose weight, but you're going to lose muscle too, and then you're going to gain it all back in the end. And so it's like you have to have all 3. And if you have all 3, you can't lose, right? So then it's like, great, that's the fundamental argument. And then you say, okay, so for fitness, and then you make the explanation. For accountability, it's like, hey, have you ever, when you were a kid, you were trying to brush your teeth and you never wanted to do it. And your parents are like, hey, you got to go brush your teeth. You're like, fine. And you brush your teeth. And then now you're an adult. Do you brush your teeth? Yes, of course I brush my teeth. So what we did is we took external accountability to create the habit, and then eventually it became internal accountability because the habit was created, then you do it without your parents yelling at you. And so that's all we're going to do with fitness, right? And so you want to have a little analogy like that you can use to explain each of the core components of your 3-pillar pitch. Now, mind you, the 3-pillar pitch doesn't usually take more than like 2 or 3 minutes. And so a lot of times salespeople will take, 20 minutes to do their pitch when people don't care. They care way more about them. So you want to spend the majority of the time saying, hey, where are you at? Where do you want to go? Got it. This is what I'm hearing. Okay, what have you tried so far to solve this? And you go through the pain cycle. We want to keep asking them, what else have you tried? How'd that work for you? What did you like? What did you not like? What else did you try? How'd that work for you? What did you like? What did you not like? And you keep going through that until you've exhausted everything. Because the way that sales works is that you motivate someone to take an action. And the way that you motivate someone is that you increase their deprivation. So if I'm hungry, I'm more motivated to eat. And so if I want to get someone to eat, I want to explain to them or remind them how hungry they are. Maybe me talking about hunger right now. Think about the last time you ate. Think about a pie. Think about like the smell of cookies. Maybe you're in a steak or like a nachos mood right now, right? So right now, all I'm doing is like, when was the last time you ate? Has it been a few hours? Right, so all we're doing is we're talking about the deprivation. We're trying to say, hey, wouldn't it be nice? We're trying to extend that. And so it could be like, when was the last time you had lead flow that was regular? What would it be like if you did have those kind of leads? So what have you tried so far, right? And so all we're doing is we're extending that, and that increases the motivation for someone to take action. So this is me translating the closer framework into questions. So what made you opt in? What made you engage? What made you take whatever the initial action was? What made you open my email? What made you respond to my comment? Okay, and so they say they have some sort of problem. Got it. So it sounds like, this is label, like you'd like to be here. Is that right? You're labeling, this is where you want to go. Okay, cool. So what's got in the way? Got it. What else have you tried? How'd that work for you? Cool. 3-pillar pitch, which we covered. And then now we're in the E and R. So the 3-pillar pitch is sell. Then E and R is explain away their concerns. So the concerns are typically gonna be time, like I'm busy right now. Stall, I don't like to make decisions, like give me a couple days to think about it. Money, this is too expensive. Preferences, I don't like this particular thing. I'd rather get your results my way. The last one should be decision maker, which is basically they give the decision-making power to somebody else. This should say authority. That's on me. And so fundamentally, those are the things that you have to overcome to get someone to make the decision today. And then after that, the R is that you want to sell them on the idea that they made a great decision and reinforce that by having a beautiful offboarding experience or onboarding into the next step for CS. For those of you who have to set or have a two-step sale, I'll just give you a little bit of tactics here. This is the AAA framework. So if you need to set and you have a two-step sale, we break this into two parts, CLO and AAA. CLO is the first three. So you don't want to sell if you're setting. You're just saying, hey, what's your problem? Where do you want to go? Label the gap and the obstacle that they've tried, and then overview their pain. And right when they're like, oh my God, I'm starving, you're like, you know what? I think you'd be a good fit for this. Let me set you up with John. So you basically blue ball them, or you get them really hungry, but you don't provide a solution so that it increases the likelihood they want to show up for the next thing. Now, during the actual conversation, I like to use the AAA framework, which is while you're basically circling between questions, you're just like, okay, got it. So I'm hearing X, Y, and Z. Is that right? Okay, that actually makes you just like some of our best customers. And so then you ask and answer the next question. And that's it. And that's basically how you move this script really seamlessly without it sounding like really robotic. That is such a key point at level 2, which is now you've already made your first sale. Now we need to get consistent with the sales process so we nail it down with script for setting and closing. And if you're just starting out and want to learn how to advertise at the basic level, watch this. Real quick, can I get your email address? Because I want to send you $1,000 of free stuff straight to your inbox. And the way I'm going to do that is through the school games. I will help you build a community and monetize that community through school. And this training is the type of stuff that people charge $1,000, $5,000 for, $10,000 for. And it's yours absolutely free. And the reason I'm doing all this is because I just became the co-owner of school. And to commemorate that, I wanted to make the most insane offer ever. If interested, click the link and I'll see you on the other side.
Great, so then we move to customer service, which is how you get customers to refer, retain, review, and resell. Okay, so at this level, the constraint is that paid customers have higher standards and complain more than the free ones that you were used to, right? And so to graduate this level, we need to nail down a customer service script to deal with upset customers and get testimonials from happy customers. These are both responsibilities of customer service. And so let's look at the first one, right? We're gonna nail down a customer script to deal with upset customers, and that looks like learning the angry boat, okay? So let me tell you a little story about the angry boat, which is, the angry boat is essentially when a customer comes to you and they're extremely upset about something, right? You're actually gonna get more upset than that person because only one person can be in the angry boat. So I'll give you an example of this. So say that I have a customer and they signed up for a workshop that we host. And they're extremely upset because they realized all of a sudden that they signed up for a date that doesn't work for them, but it was the only one we offered. And they're like, what am I gonna do? I can't come to another date for 6 months. When my rep gets on the phone with them, when that person's saying, they're like, I can't do another date for 6 months. My rep is gonna get on the phone and be like, I can't believe this. That's unacceptable. I can't believe the fact that you have to wait 6 months. I'm so upset about this. I'm gonna have to do something about it. And what you'll see is that only one person can be in the angry boat at once. So that customer is suddenly like, oh, shoot, they're upset. And they're gonna start to back off because only one person, whoever is the most upset, is gonna be the one in the angry boat. And what you will see is that the other person is going to cry and almost backpedal on what they were saying. And that customer's like, oh gosh, no, like fire somebody, do what? No, don't do any of that. Like, it's not that big of a deal, geez. And they're gonna start to backpedal on what they were saying. What's the most frustrating thing, if you think about when you're a customer, is when you call somebody and you're upset and they're like, yeah, I don't know if we can do anything about that. And you're like, what the heck, man? Like, do you even give a crap about me? And so don't be that person. Instead, learn how to get in the angry boat so that they get out of it. Which leads us to the HEAR framework, right? So what is the HEAR framework? First, we're gonna hear the customer out. Here's the thing, you need to let them vent and you need to shut the fuck up, okay? Let them talk, let them be angry, let them get it out, okay? Engage with body language and short responses. Okay, gosh, oh my goodness, okay, yeah, okay. Just acknowledge what they're saying, let them get it out, right? You're gonna hear them out. The second thing you're gonna do is you're gonna emphasize and acknowledge how awful the experience was, okay? You're going to agree with their thoughts and feelings and escalate beyond their upsetness. oh my gosh, you know what? I cannot believe that you've had to deal with that. I can't believe that we signed you up for that, not knowing that you couldn't even come for another 6 months. This is ridiculous. I am so sorry. You must feel so frustrated that you spent so much money and you can't even do this for 6 months. I am so sorry and I'm so upset. Do I need to fire somebody? You see what I'm saying? Once you've emphasized and acknowledged, you need to apologize for the issue. Does apologizing actually do anything? No, but apologize, okay? Apologize for the issue. Does this make it right? No, but taking accountability for the impact and inconvenience you have caused them will help them, right? So it's like, hold on, Mary, I wanna take a second. I am so sorry. This is unacceptable, and I deeply apologize that you're having this experience. Does that do anything about what's gonna happen next? No, but she wants to hear you beg and plead for her acceptance of the apology, okay? Which brings us to the last part, which is R, resolve the issue. Work with the customer to resolve the issue rather than working outside of the customer because you want to ensure that they like the solution. You know what, Mary? Let's work through this. I want to work with you to figure out what we can do to make this right. And so I've got 3 things that are top of mind for me, right? 1, I could refund you, but you know what? I don't want to refund you because I know you actually want to do this. And so the second option I've got is that I'm going to work to get, I'm going to go to my manager. I'm going to do whatever I've got to do to get you into the next one. That's at a time that works for you. I have December 12th. Does that work for you, Mary? Okay. Or you know what, Mary? I've got a third option. Okay. My third option is that I can get you into our next level event. And I know that you didn't pay for that, but you know what, Mary? This is our fault and I'm fucking pissed about it. And so, I'm going to take my paycheck. I'm going to put it towards getting you to our next level event. Mary, out of those options, which one sounds the best for you? Or is there something else that I missed out that would have been best? And so that is the HERE framework, and that is how you're going to de-escalate upset customers. And so here's the thing I want to explain. Do not back down from an upset customer. Do not cower. Always confront it. At this stage, a lot of the time, the reason that people don't do this is because they lack the skill of being able to have hard conversations. And so use this to have hard conversations. It can be with your customer, it can be with your spouse or your friend, right? And so if you use that, then what brings us to is the next one, which is understanding how to get testimonials from happy customers. So we know how to deal with upset customers. The next piece you need to graduate is to know how to get testimonials from happy ones. Because at this point, you're still a new business, right? You still don't have that many testimonials. You're not gonna be able to continue growing unless you have all this social proof that you're capturing, okay? And so what you wanna do is learn the Epiphany Bridge script, right? And that's really understanding the internal and the external journey from where they started to where they end up from using your product, service, etc. And so what does that look like, right? First is the internal struggle. What was rock bottom like? What were you doing before this? What had you done? What did you have to do that you hated? What were the things that you wanted to do but you couldn't, right? So if it's somebody that's losing weight, it's like, what did it feel like? The fact that you couldn't wear a bikini at the beach. Tell me what it was like when you felt like you couldn't even look in the mirror. You're thinking about what did it look like before. Then you've got the external struggle, right? What were your objective metrics? I was 250 pounds, right? I was eating 3,000 calories a day. I was a size 45 waist, right? And so it's all the objective metrics. We've got how it feels internally, and then we have externally, what are the measurements that show us where someone was at? Then we've got skepticism. Okay, Mary, well, what were your main concerns before joining this program? What were your main concerns before clicking on the ad? What were your main concerns before you talked to anybody on the phone? What customers can relate to is they can relate to the pain another customer felt before they worked with you, before they bought your product, or before they experienced your service, right? And more people relate to the pain than they relate to the solution, because the people that are watching or reading the testimonial don't have the solution yet. So you really want to dig into what were they skeptical about? Where was the pain? The next piece is what made you do it anyways? Why did you decide to do it, Mary? Why did you decide to sign up for my program when there's all these other programs out there? What was so different about it? What made you finally click? What made you actually pay the money? What made you actually take the risk?
And you can ask, why us, why now? Or why us, why then? And then that can also zero in for them like about your specific or unique differentiator that made them make the decision and why temporally that was important to them in that moment. Exactly.
And then once you've done that, you want to loop it all the way back, going from the internal struggle to the internal victory and the external struggle to the external victory, right? What are your objective measures now, right? Mary, what do you weigh now after going through the program? What size waist are you? What kind of clothes do you fit into? Where do you shop, right? And then internally, what has been the best moment that you've experienced since joining this program? What has been your biggest win? What's the thing that you do now that you couldn't do before? Can you wear a bikini? Can you go to the beach? Can you walk past a mirror naked? What can you do now that you didn't used to be able to do? And what things did you hate doing that you don't have to do anymore? And so what pain got taken away? And so if you can walk somebody through the script, and guys, this is under customer service, customer service always has an element of sale, right? When you have an upset customer, you're reselling them on you, right? That conversation is a resell. When you're taking somebody through this testimonial script, again, you're reselling them and re-exciting them about the product that they just used. And so what you want to understand is that whether you are selling somebody into your product, or you're selling someone to continue using your product, or you're selling somebody not to exit your product, you are selling people. And so that takes us in customer service from having paid customers that have higher standards and complain more, to learning how to deal with upset customers and getting testimonials from happy ones. Which brings us to IT.
IT is how you store, analyze, and display information. And so the issue at this level, at level 2, is that you have no money to afford tech. Surprise, surprise. And so to graduate, you start using free tech and free trial credits for starter softwares you picked before. So last time we tried to figure out which ones we were going to use. This level, we start using them. You set up your basic site to collect leads and a starter CRM. So this is the Google Suite, the CRM, School. Those are all examples of those things that we referenced earlier. And so what that looks like is that you have to be able to have a place for customers to submit contact information, a way to keep track of prospects and customers, so think sales pipeline. And then this is where basic automation can save you a lot of time earlier on, because in the beginning, you don't have a lot of time, right? So the basic little things you can do, like an automatic response, a text reminders for scheduled appointments, like little things like that can save you huge amounts of bandwidth. I remember when we started in this business, there was no automated texting, so we manually texted all reminders to every person all the time. Online calendars were not a thing yet. And so when leads would go to a thank you page, I had a picture of Layla and a number that said, please text to us. Text Layla to figure out when you can come in. And then my 201 version of that was, hey, text Layla 2 times that work for you. That way we could start with the time, and then she could just say, that works for me or not. So technology is advanced, but fundamentally, this is what has to occur. And so you start with things as simple as Google Suites or School to get those first steps going and get the first sales. All right. And so that's pretty much all you have to do in IT. If you're like, wow, this is pretty simple. Yes, it is simple. And so the only thing simpler is just not doing it. All right. So you had no money to afford tech, so you use free tech. And now we move on to recruiting.
So recruiting is how you find and hire people to work for your company. Okay. And so at this level, you have too much work for part-timers and freelancers. That is the problem and the constraint that you're experiencing. Friends and family can't keep helping you and also have their main job, right? Your mom's like, I can't keep doing your bookkeeping on the side. Your friends are like, listen, I have a full-time job and this is becoming a thing, right? You also become the majority of the freelancers' work. So the freelancers, they actually start to become a constraint because you're like, hey, I'm giving you more work. You're slowing down. Why are you so slow? Why are you not delivering on time? Why is this not getting done as fast? And they're like, listen, I've got 10 other clients. I can't keep doing this as fast as you want to. I can't keep up, right? Your demands exceed what a contractor can deliver on, aka the freelancers as well. And you need to make decisions about who is worth bringing on full time and what roles you need to replace contractors. Okay, so there's 2 things you want to do there. What do you need full time? Because now it has really turned into a full-time role due to volume. And who do you need to replace to bring on as a full-time role? Okay, and so to graduate this level, you want to convert part-timers into full-time employees and make public posts or run ads on job boards to get full-time employees. So when we talk about converting part-timers to full-time employees, right, that means that you're probably gonna go to people and you'll be like, so you told me that you don't really like your job. How about you come work for me? That is the conversation that you're gonna have time and time again with people that are working part-time for you and have a full-time job. And this is something we walk businesses through all the time, which is you're just making them an offer, right? And so that's part of this is, can you get the part-timers to be full-timers, right? Some of them are gonna be like, F no, you're never gonna be able to pay me as much. Some of them are gonna say yes. They're gonna be like, I don't like my job and I want a shot at this, and maybe this will turn into a big thing, right? For those who say no and miss out on the biggest opportunity of their lifetime, right? We wanna look at how can we recruit people, right? And I would suggest doing this. Start with basic recruiting platforms like Indeed or LinkedIn, right? Both of those have internal candidate pipelines, and you can also post on your social media, right? And so if you've never done this before, these are the 2 things I would do. One, this is an example post that I have posted. I still do this, right? And actually it's even better that I have a bigger audience. This was a post I put on LinkedIn, right? I'm looking for a director of customer success. Here's what our current scores look like. If you know somebody, apply here. Copy my post, post it on your social media, right? So that's one way you can get people for full-time roles, right? So even if you have a really small thing, here's what I would tell you. When I was first hiring for an executive assistant, I posted on my Facebook, and one of the first people that responded, she still works for me today. Came from a Facebook post. I had no friends on Facebook. I had like 1,000 or 500 something, right? Maybe it was more than most people, but less than a lot.
Wow.
And
okay, whatever. 1,000 must be nice.
And that person came from an old personal training client I had, and she still works today. She went from Gym Launch to Prestige to Allen to Acquisition.com. She is still here. Her name is Yasmin. And she came from a post just like this. The second thing you can do is start with a basic platform like Indeed. And I swear to you, Indeed is so easy that I don't need to explain to you at all how to use it. If you log in, you create an account, it will step by step walk you through exactly what you need to do. And it will even do automated reminders and reach outs for you. So that's the first platform I would start with when I'm hiring people right now in this phase of advertising. What happens is that you have too much work for part-timers, you convert them, or you run ads or make posts to get full-timers. Which brings us to human resources.
As the king of resources of humans, the constraint at this level is that you are treating contractors like full-time employees, which is illegal, unfortunately. And so to graduate, you set employees up as W-2s. That's at least what it is in the US. In other countries, it'll be different, but there's probably going to be some full-time employee status that you need to make sure that they get set up properly. And so what it looks like, and this is directly from the IRS, this is a 20-point checklist for, is this person an independent contractor or is this person an employee? And so I think it's 13 if I'm not mistaken. No, yes to 5 of 20 means they're probably an employee. So literally if you get over 25% of these as yeses, you would qualify, or the employee would qualify as being full-time. The reason that's important is that means that you have to withhold taxes, you have to pay payroll tax, Medicare, Medicaid, all that kind of stuff on top of what you normally pay them. So if you're like, wait, this means that it costs more. Yes, running a business costs more money, especially if you want to go legit. Some of you might be like, well, I had a mentor say, don't worry about that stuff. Well, I'd say like, how big is that mentor's business? But beyond that, like all of this has to do with risk, which is like, you can absolutely run completely illegal businesses. Drug dealers do it all the time. The thing is that you run risk. And so it's a question of how much risk do you want to incur? And so our recommendation is to be by the book. And I'll zoom out one step. If you making the extra payroll cost puts you out of business, then that would be a greater risk. And so you can, and this is, I'll probably get sued or something for saying this, but I get what it's like to start out. And sometimes, again, it's how much risk am I willing to take and what is the larger risk here, right? Like if you had, for example, completely compliant advertising, the most compliant way to advertise is to never tell anyone that you exist. And so that then guarantees that you'll go out of business. And so the idea is that like everything you do in business is managing risk rather than saying that this is risk-free or this is 100% guaranteed. It's just levels. Our recommendation, just go by the book as long as you can afford it. This is the actual risk. You're like, what? How much is this? So one is you can get sued for back taxes and you have to pay penalties and interest. And so that means right now everybody loves you, but maybe in a year, one of those employees leaves who was an independent contractor and says, you know what? When they get their tax bill, they're like, oh, I didn't pay taxes. I shouldn't have to pay taxes. I was an employee. And then they're going to pull up that checklist and say, well, did you have to show up on time? Did you have regularly scheduled meetings? Did you have a uniform? Were you customer facing? Like they have the list that they have there. If they meet 5 of them, they'll win. And then the IRS will go after you for the taxes they should have paid with interest and penalties. And now if you do that for, call it 10 people, and you do that for 2 years, then you have 2 years of back taxes, penalties, and interest across a lot of people. Because once they find one, what do you think the IRS does? Well, they're trying to get money. And so they just pull the thread and see, let's take a look under the hood. Let's see what else you messed up, which is something that I personally would prefer to avoid. And so the bigger you are, the longer you let it go, the larger your turnover, the larger your liability, the larger your risk. And so on the other hand, having to withhold taxes decreases their gross pay to them, the independent contractor, and costs you more. But again, this is just what going legit means. So my TLDR on this is relax, don't be a jerk, and you'll be okay as you transition everyone over to full-time employee or W-2, or replace the ones that don't want to make the transition. That wraps our human resources at level 2, which moves us into finance.
All right, so finance is how you report and manage your money. And so at this phase, the constraint is that you don't keep track of your money or have a way to pay taxes, which is a problem, right? And so to graduate, you want to spin up a QuickBooks or an equivalent to that. You want to save for taxes and you want to check your bank account daily. Okay, so here's the thing. New business owners often forget that they're going to have to pay taxes. And then they get surprised with this massive tax bill and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't understand. How am I supposed to pay these taxes? We're like, yes. So you're supposed to be saving for those quarterly, right? And so the best thing that you can do as a business, especially if you're somebody who likes to spend what's in their bank account, is start paying taxes quarterly, okay? This also teaches financial discipline. And so in order to do this, the one caveat I will say is that you need to have a not sketchy CPA. I can't tell you the amount of people that come to us and they're like, my CPA said that I could pay for my wife's wardrobe and my, guys, if it sounds like it's illegal and it could be risky, don't do it because it's not worth the peace of mind. And also, if you're trying to build something legit, act legit. Don't pay for your freaking dog's haircut in your business bank account. Like, don't try to expense a vacation that you made one work phone call for an hour one day. Like, be by the book. And that's something that we have always been just very adamant about for our own peace of mind. And so here's the thing. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you get a good CPA, and then you can have that person tell you how much money you need to set aside to make quarterly tax payments. Now, you could pay taxes all at the end of the year, but for new business owners who don't have the best financial discipline, you don't have a CFO, you don't have a controller, you don't even have an accountant, it makes more sense to pay these quarterly so that you're not spending money that you're going to have to pay the IRS later, okay? Now, the second thing to that is you need to develop a personal habit. Right now, you don't have a P&L. You don't have somebody telling you this is how much money you have, but you do have a bank account. And if you check it daily, you're going to at least understand the flow of money. And you will feel every expense that hits it. So you're going to be more financially disciplined. It's very similar to if you're trying to lose weight, you want to start weighing yourself every day. You step on the scale every morning and you're like, yeah, you know what? I did eat that froyo last night. And I weigh more today for it. And you know what? Now I feel crappy. I probably shouldn't eat so much today. The same is going to be with your bank account. You're going to check it and you'll be like, why did I buy that computer monitor when I already had one that was fine? I don't even have that much money. I'm not going to do that again. You want fast feedback loops. Because right now, you're at a point in your business where having fast feedback loops is better than having very accurate, precise, organized ones. You just need to have a pulse on what's going on. And so that's it. In order to graduate finance, you don't keep track of money or have a way to pay taxes. You start to keep track of money with something like a QuickBooks or an equivalent. You save for taxes with a non-shitty CPA, and you check your bank account every day. Which brings us to the bottom line, right? The constraint is that new customers were inconsistent. And to graduate, you need to let more people know about your stuff. That's it at the end of the day.
And if you are brand new to business, because this is the last transition where we have no employees, so going into the next video will be our first 4 employees, our first full-time team that we have at that point. But if you're not there yet and you're like, I'm still not sure what business I want to do, School is a platform that helps people start their first business online. It's one of the cheapest businesses that you can start. It's a very fast feedback loop. And it's online, so you can go wherever you want all over the world, which is one of the advantages. And right now, 1 out of 2 people who start a paid community on School make money online. So we're very proud of that statistic. And so we let people start for free. You can click below and you can get started. We have tons of in-depth training inside of there for you to get a taste of step by step exactly what you need to do, what the best model is, what the best pricing is, all of that stuff. I take a call every week in there to answer questions in real time. If some of the stuff that we went over was a little bit basic for the level of business that you're at, 2 things. One is that's by design because this is for a smaller business owner up to this point. We're gonna keep going all the way up to 500 employees. So we've got room. But if you want to jump to those videos that'll be specific to you, I would encourage you to get a custom $100 million scaling roadmap. And so we put a ton of work into this whole system by department all the way up. So let's say you've got 30 employees. Well, you probably want to know what you need to do to get to 50 and then from 50 to 100, right? And so we actually have this delineated with more detail, broken down by department before and after the transition. And so, like I said, if this is basic for you, cool. That's why we make this more advanced stuff and we can customize it for you. But in the meantime, we're going to go all the way from cradle to grave, from no humans to all the humans. All right, so that being said, we'll see you in the next vid, which is
stabilize.
1 to 4 employees. See you there.